So I'm going to play Michael Lee Hill, testing 1, 2, 3, and I'll be back in 3 minutes and 6 seconds with Joshua Hart. You're listening to the Friday Farcast. I'm Robert Phoenix, testing 1, 2, 3. That was a former guest, or a prior guest, Michael Lee Hill, just tearing it up on the 6-string, testing 1, 2, 3. So my next guest, Joshua Hart, is an environmental advocate, and he is out there on the front lines organizing and doing his very best to enlighten people about the dangers of smart meters. And there's been a fair amount of action taking place on that front. So let's bring Mr. Joshua Hart onto the show today, and let's give him a warm welcome.
Hi, Robert. Thanks so much for having me on.
Hey, Josh. Thank you for holding and being patient. I really appreciate that.
No problem. No problem.
So let's jump into this. Let's talk about what's happening right now. From what I understand, I saw some news recently that PG&E is starting to have to remove some of the smart meters. What's up with that, and kind of where are we in the general sort of smart meter, the campaign against smart meters? Where are we currently with that?
Well, to frame this whole thing, and I'm not sure whether your listeners are familiar with what's been going on over the last couple of years with regard to the smart grid. But essentially, what we're looking at is the telecommunications industry, trying to merge with the utility industry to basically add internet connectivity to the electrical grid. And on the surface, it sounds good. It sounds, you might believe the things that they say about saving greenhouse gas emissions or making our energy grid more efficient. But of course, the devil's always in the details, and there's a lot of devil in these details. And from problems with the health effects of constant radio frequency transmissions to privacy violations and spying on the activities within your home, to overcharging, which has been reported all over California, all over the rest of the states when smart meters go in, to fire safety issues. There's a whole load of problems with these meters, and the thing that we've been focusing on, to try and educate people about is the health issue. And essentially, we're learning more and more that cell phones and other wireless devices are not harmless technologies, that people are becoming sensitized to this kind of radiation in large numbers in our country and abroad. And just when we're learning all these new studies coming out about brain tumors and cell phone usage, the utilities are basically forcing wireless smart meters that put out very, very high levels of non-ionizing radiation, just at a time when the World Health Organization is finding that this is a class 2B carcinogen in the same category as DDT and lead. So it would be bad enough if it were just the fact that, hey, we have these studies, hey, the utilities forcing this on people and not giving them any choice about the matter. But the fact that we now have thousands and thousands of firsthand reports of health damage and the same kinds of symptoms being reported from all across society means that we really have a public health emergency on our hands, and we need to make sure that people are aware of this, that they have the tools and know their rights in order to protect themselves, and really fight back against what we consider to be an attack on the population. Okay,
so we framed that, and where are you in that? Because I did see some news recently that the PG&E was having to remove some smart meters. Was this a kind of a concession? Was it just kind of a ruse? I mean, where are we with that?
Well, what's happening is that the utilities have been facing a huge and growing public backlash against this technology, and the way that the utility industry has behaved is that they offer up concessions just as the civil unrest and the demand from the public reaches a really critical level. And so, for example, when you had back maybe 6-8 months ago, when you had dozens and dozens, hundreds of people coming to the Public Utilities Commission saying, "Hey, look, I can't sleep with this thing. It's giving me ringing in the ears. I've got headaches. You've got to remove it." They said, "Okay, we're going to do an opt-out program," and that sort of said people, "Okay, they're doing something about it, and I can go back to my life, and I don't have to get up early in the morning and drive to San Francisco and testify before the PUC." So what's happening now is that new people who are coming forward saying that they're getting health effects. They're going to the Public Utilities Commission, which is meant to regulate the utilities here in California, and they're saying, "I want this removed." The Utilities Commission, in a couple of instances over the past several weeks, has said to PG&E, "You need to return the older analog meter and remove the smart meter from this person's house." Now, PG&E has gone ahead and done that in response to the health effects that these people were complaining about. But after we sent our press release out a couple of weeks ago announcing that the first analogs were beginning to be returned, PG&E and the PUC apparently have closed the door and said, "No more, we're not going to remove any meters." And so what we're telling people now is do not wait for the official opt-out program or the official permission to remove a meter. If there's something that's hazardous on your home and it's creating a safety or health issue, you're within your rights to have it removed, to document everything, and to replace it with a safer analog meter. And that's what people have been doing increasingly.
What's the cost for people generally to do that themselves, or have an electrician do that?
Well, it's relatively inexpensive, and considering the health impacts that we're looking at, it's very inexpensive, and we really advise people not to live with these things on their homes. the cost of an analog meter ranges from $5 to $50. You can purchase them on eBay or many places online. Getting an analog meter is not difficult. Electrical supply stores have them, and then finding someone, an electrician or a professional who can remove the meter, can swap them out safely, and make sure to document it all, and document the readings, and do that all right. People have been doing it for under $100, and if you your health, of course, is priceless. There's no
right.
So we say, hey, this is really worth it. People need to stand up to the utility, and at the end of the day, they're just a private party. They're not the government, even though they sort of every day that goes on, it seems that these corporations are more and more becoming sort of government, pseudo-government-like entities. But we're here to remind people that this is your home, whether you rent or whether you own your home. This is your home. You have a right to tell any utility agent or to get off your property, or to demand that they remove a device that is potentially harmful. And if they fail to do that, to put health and safety first, then you have a right to rectify the situation yourself. And we've been supporting people in doing that in Santa Cruz County, California, and elsewhere.
So let's talk about the protocol for that. So I go out, I find myself a very cheap analog meter. I find an electrician that will charge me $50 to swap them out. What happens now? All of a sudden, PG&E, they don't have my smart meter to bounce their signal to the next smart meter down the street. Do I get a knock on my door? What happens after that?
Well, what people have been experiencing, they'll swap out the meters, and then they'll get some sort of letter from PG&E saying, we've noticed that we've not been collecting, your smart meter readings, and a site visit revealed that, you've removed the meter and installed another one, and they threaten you with a lot of scary sounding terms, like federal law violations and tampering violations and things like that. But what's important for people to realize is that on the one side there's the law, there's federal law, there's state law, and then there's utility company policy. And tampering is definitely illegal. Trying to do things to your meter so you don't have to pay for the electricity is definitely illegal. But if you document, the process of switching out the meter, if you show that your intent is not to defraud the utility, but instead to protect your health and substitute a safer meter, it's very unlikely that any jury would convict you of tampering. So what PG&E has been relying on, and what the utility industry has been relying on, are threats that are not backed up by the law, that they hope that 99% of the people will back down once they hear these threats. But there's very little that the utility industry can do to you if this is your property. I mean, essentially, what they've done in installing the smart grid and smart meters without people's permission is that they've installed a communications device akin to a cell tower on people's homes without asking permission. And they said, oh, well, we don't need your consent. We have implied consent, whatever that means. And so what's important for people to do is to, if they have a smart meter, to send a letter to the utility. We've got a sample letter on our website, revoking consent for that meter to be on the property. And that is important because it shows that you do not consent to this meter, that it throws the whole concept of implied consent out the window, and it puts the utility company on notice that they need to remove this device from your home. So that's essentially what we're advising people to do.
Okay. And obviously people have done this. They've sent the letter in. They've swapped out the meter. PG&E rattles its sabers, but nothing happens?
Yeah, basically they can't do much. I mean, if you pay your bill, they can't disconnect you legally. If you remove your meter, they can try and charge you more, but that's subject to, at least in California, that's subject to an opt-out proceeding. It's a judicial proceeding at the State Public Utilities Commission, so they can't charge you more until that's resolved.
Right.
And they can't really go after you for tampering unless they have evidence that you're trying to steal electricity from them. So people need to not pay any attention to what the utility company says with regard to your rights. Like, that's the biggest mistake that people make. They call up PG&E or their utility and they say, please remove this meter. I'd like to have this meter removed, rather than saying,